Hello people, back again, another video. This time I'm just gonna talk about Art CATHEY. You know, I love me some Art CATHEY, man. Art CATHEY brings it on a hot plate. You know, she doesn't mince words, and she says things as it is, and I like that. That's pure honesty. You know, there's another lady that a Gambian lady that thinks Art CATHEY is insulting Gambians and insulting Africans in general. I don't think Art CATHEY is insulting Gambians, and I don't think Africans is insulting. I don't think Art CATHEY is insulting Africans at all. It's just the way of thinking of Rene Marcus is a typical African way of thinking. And we've been thinking like that for the past 200 years or so, since you know, or should I say since slavery and why, you know, Europeans came into Africa. That mentality, we've been brainwashed to think the way Rene Marcus thinks, you know. You can even see when she speaks and she talks about her family and what she has achieved. Achievement for Africans on the continent is leaving Africa and settling in Europe or America or somewhere else. It's not settling in Africa, you know. And we've been brainwashed to think like that. And Rene Marcus thinks like that. This is not, because this is what happens, right? This is not for me trying to bring up, trying to sort of talk negatively about one black woman against another black woman, because this has been used against us for such a long time. But I think it's just a very, to me, I find this as an interesting case study to just see the difference between either Africans on the continent and Africans in the diaspora. And believe me, I strongly believe Africans in the diaspora, whether it's the people that lived willingly or the people that belong, that are descendants of the people that left by force, that were made to leave Africa by force, I strongly believe that group of people, especially the latter, the ones who are descendants of people that left Africa by force, are more Africans than the Africans on the continent. Because if you go to the Gambia, you go to any country, Gambia, former British colony, you go to what they study. You know, I remember I was watching the Bag family, you know, the Black Acres of the Gambia, the family that I love, actually. I watch all their videos, you know, Sweet Daddy, Sweet Juice Mama. I think they're great people. And we need more people like that to come to Africa, you know. They don't say it the way Art CATHEY says it. And that's okay. You know, they're gentle and they have a better way of bringing it up. I heard their daughter Kiki say when she went to school, she was confused because she thought she was going to come to Africa and learn African history. But when she went there, she was learning the same thing she was learning in America, which is just European history. You know, and this is the same schools, the same institutions that are assumed Rene Marcus went to. If she grew up in Zambia, in Gambia, or if you grew up in the UK, it will be the same. So you can see the difference in the way these things work. You know, so Rene Marcus is the sort of African mentality that's prevailing across the continent. But that's the mentality we need to get rid of. We need an Art CATHEY mentality for us to develop our own economies and gain the respect that we deserve. You know, I'll tell you something, because we are like a lost people. I'd like people that like to read books. Find this author, Sheikh Anta Diop. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's CHEIKHANTA Diop, D-I-O-P. You know, This guy is a Senegalese guy. He wrote a lot of books. If you he's shown the world scientifically, because he was a physicist, a chemist, an anthropologist, biologist, you name it. This guy was it all. He's a doctor. He was a doctor at the time of his death. I think he died in the late 80s. And his death is connected to the French, because that's what happens in Africa. If you try to elevate your people, they'll kill you. You know, the same reason has happened all over the world. Look at Luther King, got killed. Look at Malcolm X, he got killed. And you could see the information between the FBI proves now, without any doubt, that these people were killed because they were trying to educate the black race in America. You know, they call it the Negro agitators. But you know, what these people are trying to do is to wake the people up. They wake their people up so that the people can realize their strengths. Marcus Garvey, what happened to him? They found a way to get him out of America. They didn't kill him, but they just found a way to get him out of America, because he wasn't an American citizen. I bet you, if he was an American citizen, he could have been killed. You know, but they found a way to get rid of him. But what did Marcus Garvey say that was wrong? Or what did he do? All he wanted to do, and he said it, he went all over the world. Unfortunately, he didn't visit Africa, but he knew Africa was his home. He went all over the world and found that wherever he came across black people, on any continent, black people were suffering. And the reason why I want to connect this to Sheikh Anta Diop is because this is something that's interesting. A people with no history is a fragile people. You know, that makes sense. It's the same thing we go through right now. Because if you go to Africa, you study, any African who's ever studied in an African school will agree with me 100%. The history we learn there is European history. We don't learn our own history. You know. But this man was able to show without any doubt how a lot of things that we see today started in Africa. Civilization itself started in Africa. Most people on the continent don't even know this. You know, the Egyptians that you see today were not the Egyptians that made the pyramids and the Sphinx, or the Sphinx, whatever you Greek name that they've given these things. You know, back in the day, Kemet, Egypt was called Kemet. You know, we had our own religion. There was a story of a god. It was Asa, Aset, and Heru. They've changed. The Greeks come in and they've stolen this to Cyrus and Horus and whatever crap. We need to go back and learn a bit about that. And this is you can put up an image of Khufu, an image of King Nema or Nemes. They're black people. They look like me. You know, I said this to someone, because even the Sphinx, they want to make it look like it was something. I'm like, dude, have you ever seen the movie Forrest Gump? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, dude, look on the side of the Sphinx from this view and tell me if that Sphinx doesn't look like the black guy, Forrest Gump's friend in Black Guy. In Forrest Gump's black friend. You know, it looks more like him than it looks like Forrest Gump. So stop all this nonsense. The evidence is right there. You know, these people went as far as coming up with a fake skull to prove that people in Europe descended from something else, from something different, which could then justify the difference in the level of intelligence. And 50 years, people used that skull to prove this statement, which was wrong, until Cheikh and other scientists proved that this skull was actually made up. It was fake from the get-go. So for 50 years, white scientists in Europe pushed an agenda that was based on lies. You know, Sheikh Anta Diop has said this: when you start the brain, the anterior lobe, there's no difference in whether you're black, white, Chinese, it's the same. And also the fact that every race started from Africa. We have the same origin. So if we have the same origin, there shouldn't be any difference in the level of intelligence. It goes on further to explain, and I'm coming, and I don't want to lose you here because I'm coming back to RENA and at CATHEY. And he goes on further to explain why Europe built more than Africans did. Because what happens after there was different groups all over Africa. You go to the Khoi and in Southern Africa, you have the Pygmies and all these people, and then you have people of the Nile, who are the Nilotes, the tallest people on earth, tough dudes, black Africans. These are the same people that started moving, and as they moved, they intermarried with the groups they made, and then eventually they formed what came to be known as the Bantu, and then they sort of spread across Central and Southern Africa. And then on the other side, you got tribes like the Igbo, the Yoruba people, and all these people who were already, in these places, But we came from majority of Central and Southern Africa. We will have Nilotic blood in them because we came from that group of the Nilotes. Basically means along the Nile River. That's where they lived. So we started what you see today in Egypt. We built the pyramids. We built the Sphinx. Most of these big things, we built them. Even when look at this is how they change things. Look at the statue of Ramses, and look at Ramses's alleged mummy. The Egyptians aren't that stupid. There's no way they're gonna make a statue that's so different to the mummy, So we know what these people are trying to do here, trying to play a bit of abracadabra on black people's minds, and unfortunately, black people fall for that, And then as we moved, Africa is such a big place. It's a big place. Because everyone should know that. We had plenty of land. We had plenty of food. We had plenty of water. Why do you think Europe was so much in conflict? Because they don't have the same sort of resources that we have. And as the population increased, there was nowhere for them to go. They don't have enough fresh water like we do. They're surrounded, they're very close to the oceans. So as the population grew, less land, less resources, people started to be creative. It's a normal human thing. Whereas if you are in Africa, as the population grew, one group of people just decided to leave, and they could leave and go and settle somewhere else because the land was so abundant, so there was no need to really think outside the box, with a lot of things. There's too many people here running out of water. Oh, just go down the road. There's instead of you using Lake Chad or something, go down the road, there's another lake. Or instead of you using the Zambezi River, go down the road, there's the Limpopo River. Instead of you using the Congo River, just go down the road, there's another river there. So you can go settle around that river and start your own thing. And that's what happens. So there was no need to think outside the box aggressively. There was not even need to fight until you sort of killed each other. That's why in Europe that happened. It was fighting for survival. That's why at some point they had to start finding to get out, to get food, to get spices, to get all these things. In Africa, we had everything we wanted. Just the tribe there across the border. There's another tribe there. There was more land. There was more resources. And we need to learn this history. It's important for our development, because once we know our history, once we know where we come from, once we know what we are capable of, and once we can sort of plan on where we want to be 150 years, 100, 150 years, 1,000 years from now, then we will become a different people, and we will get to our destination real quick. Real quick. It's not It's not rocket science. If you don't know where you come from, it will be very hard for you to tell where you're gonna go. And this is what has happened. This is where we've taken advantage of. You know, a lot of things that we believe in is just there to advance one group of people, the Europeans. That's it. So, and now I'm gonna come back to Rene Marcus and at CATHEY. You know, so Rene Marcus, African educated, with the history that you need to go to Europe and all these other places for you to have a better life. And hey, she's having a better life. You know, she says she's got 2 houses in the Gambia. Great. And what's the next thing? Oh, when she retires at the age 70, she can go back to the Gambia and to go and die in the Gambia. You know, that's our mentality. So you spend your most active years in Europe building European countries, and then you go back to Africa to go and die. That has to change. That's the mentality that needs to change. We need to realize that we need to stay in Africa for us to develop it. You know, again, I go back to Cheikh Anta Diop's book, Black Africa. There he talks about how we could develop. And this was back in the 60s. This guy was talking about solar energy, you know, how we can utilize that. How just putting up a dam on the Congo could be able to supply electricity to maybe 80% of Africa. You know, if anything, the Belgians wanted to put a dam there and send that electricity to Europe and sell it at a profit. They wanted to move it using a direct current all the way to Europe and sell it at a price. And they were going to make a profit. You know, that's the sort of belief we need to have. But the education system, everything that we have, when we go to school, I went to school in Africa, man. The only thing I remember, which we did in our laboratory, was that you get a test tube, put lime water in, blow in it, and it turns milky. So even up to now, I haven't forgotten that. That's the importance of experimenting. You know, the rest, it was all theory. You know, we just read books. That's it. So every time we are doing this, we keep reading these books and go to this education. It's an education that's setting you up to get a job. So you can provide labor to people that are making money, who in most cases in Africa is foreigners. So our education system needs to change. So we can start thinking like at CATHEY, where we can be able to question everything. Question religion. Question education. Because if we don't question these things, we're going to find ourselves the same way we are today. We're going to be in the same dump 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 800 years from now. You know, we're just going to get taken advantage of. Because we are lost people. We are a people with no history. You know, we have great history. Just remember, we started civilization. You know, the first human being on this planet to say there's only one God. You know, there's only one God, and you will not show his image or write or paint or whatever. That God was Akhenaten, black. You know, the father of King Tut. I don't have to tell you this. Look up this guy's image. You know, he's black. Everything about him, big nose, big lips, whatever they're going to call you, they justify black. Akhenaten got it. You know, he was the first man to say that. So we did it in Africa before everyone else did. When everyone else was worshipping Zeus and all this stuff, in Africa, we started monolithic, where we said there's going to be one God, and we started doing that. You know, and we need to know this. You know, when we were building pyramids, there was nothing in Europe. You know, that's the truth. You know, there's over 3,000 pyramids in the Sudan. You know, God of the ancient Egyptians, Kemet, you know, was black. A man, or whatever these days they try to change them to a moon, a man was black. You know, and where they say where you originated from is from a mountain in the Sudan. You know, it makes perfect sense. Black people worshiping black Jesus or black deity. You know, it makes perfect sense. You know, Now we've been confused. We don't even know what we want. You know, here's a question. You tell me, I've never seen a country, any country that worships a deity that doesn't look like the people of that country that has developed. If you find one, please let me know. Because I'm looking at Saudi Arabia, you know, people all over the world, black, white, line up to go and work in Saudi Arabia. It's a Muslim country. I look at Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Japan, South Korea, China. All these countries are known, they worship a deity that looks like them. There's more Christians in Africa than anywhere else, than any continent on the planet. But why is it that Africans suffer the most? You know, you gotta start asking yourselves that question. You know? Rene Marcus says, you know, I like you. This is no hate or whatever, or this stuff. But your way of thinking, that should be in the past. You know, the reason why I think we need people like the Black Acres of the Gambia, and this is personal. In my last video, I talked about how we need people in the diaspora, especially descendants of people that left Africa forcibly, to come back. And I don't mean you gotta come back and live where you come from. No, come back and invest. Find something to do. If you wanna come back permanently, that's also good. You know, the reason why I think we need that, because these people have managed. They've managed to hold on to something special. They've managed to hold on to their own religion. They've managed to hold on to the way of life that is pure African. You know, we've forgotten that with the indoctrination we've gotten for the past 100 years in Africa. You know, but these people hold on to it, and we need them to come back to tell us and say, guys, when our ancestors left, this is who we were. This is what we believed in. And for us to be on the right path, we need to go back to the basics. Because even like you look at communism, in Africa, in an African society, it's not a capitalistic society. You know, it's not. It's not. It's a community where they got the word communism. And then they flipped it to make it European. It's in Africa. We started that. There's our philosophy across Africa. It's called ubuntu or ubuntu. You know, what that basically means is that I am because you are. And that's all about love. I exist because you exist. And this is true. You know, I've seen Black Acres of the Gambia people talk about some of the experiences where they're walking on the street and people are eating at the particular house, and they call them, they don't even know them, but they call them to go and eat with them. That's in Africa, and I experienced this myself. You know, my mom would call anyone who was walking around when we were eating. And some people just, we don't even know these people. They would just say, yeah, actually, I'm hungry. And they'll come and join us, and we eat together, and we're laughing. That's the African way of thinking. You know, but then we have this so-called democracy and this and the form of capitalism that now starts to divide people. Because even the kings in Africa, they were not these filthy, rich people. And everyone else was poor. It wasn't like that. It was very balanced. You know, they were the king and they were respected. But they were not filthy rich. You know, what the governments that we inherited, you know, instead of them changing it like Kwame Nkrumah was trying to do and bringing about an infusion of an African way of thinking and doing things, they just wanted to change everything and make it European. And what has done is created a group of elites who are sitting up there and everyone else is poor. That's why you go across Africa, the most rich people are politicians. You know, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that, because what it does, if you want to make money, you're going to be a politician, and then you become to this elite group, and then the rest of us are here. You know, I was watching something in Zambia where they even are using a public act that was done in 1955. Remember, Zambia got independent in 1964. So I would think during that time, 1955, 1959, they were very tumultuous years for the white European governments that were there. People were gathering and trying to demonstrate. So they came up with a public act to destabilize that. So to use it to work against black people. Today, in that same country, they have a black government, but using those same tactics to stop its own people. You know, and this is what has happened. But when we start thinking like CATHEY, we can be able to look at that and say, this is not us. How do we change this so we can be a country or a continent that benefits everyone else? You know, you go to some of these rich countries, you know, Gabon, you know, so the thing is, in Africa, you gotta be a crap president. When you're a crap president to your people, then you please the governments such as France, and then they'll benefit. I even heard some countries, I think it was Gabon or Cameroon, how they were sending money, like $20 million, to put towards the building of Notre Dame's cathedral. You know, that thing was insured. They received billions of dollars. And these African countries, with their people suffering, they're sending money to go to France. You know why they're doing that? Because they're kissers. They think like Marcus Rene. And this is why we need people like CATHEY. Imagine CATHEY being a president of Cameroon or Gabon. You know, you should tell them straight up, stuff you, it's bad that got bent. Fortunately, no one died, but you ain't getting my money. And that's the sort of African mentality that we need. You know, for someone to change, there has to be, you have to realize that the way you are doing things is a problem. You know, like I said, we are lost people. We are a lost people. You know, what we should be doing, we are lost people. That's why we just follow. We follow. The systems from Europe come to Africa, we just follow that. We are not even trying to sit down and say, wait a minute, we are not Europeans. How do we develop something that fits us so our people can benefit? You know, we're not even trying to do that. Look what China did. China, we can say the government is communist, but their economy is capitalistic. You know, so they managed to find a way to balance the two. And if you go to India, whatever, they're trying to find ways that go with their people, with their system, with their ancient way of doing things and all that, and try to bring it up into the 21st century. You know, that is the mentality we need in Africa. When CATHEY says people are stealing, it's true. I've lost a lot of money myself trying to help out people back home. You know, and they steal. They steal. It's the truth. She's not lying. But the thing is, why are they stealing? I think CATHEY has an answer. You know, poverty creates a con artist mentality, and she's 100% right. You know, and then we have to ask our questions. Why is there so much poverty when we are so wealthy? You know, and this is what happens when you start bringing up problems, issues in society. You know, because if people don't see that this is a problem, then it becomes the norm. So now everyone is just stealing. That's why people, when they go in government, they're just stealing. But if we find out why that's happening and then realize it's poverty, then we gotta find out how do we eliminate poverty. And then we find out, and we start changing our society. You know, if we don't do that, it will be stealing individually, stealing in government, and we're gonna stay the same way. It's the same reason. It's just like me. I had this conversation with my cousins. Excuse me. Back home. I got there. Everyone is buying Nestle coffee. You know, and then I say, no, don't get me that. Get me the local coffee. And everyone was like, oh, this. They don't know. And I sit down with them and I explain to them. I say, you know, when you buy Nestle, where do you think the money goes? So the owner that owns Nestle is a multi-billionaire. They're rich people. When you buy these things, the money goes to Europe. You know, and make people already rich. But when you buy local, The money goes to the local people who are there for the local farmers, who are there for employing more people because you're buying their coffee. And that's how you develop your economy. You know, the only reason I was able, and they saw it afterwards. Today I'm telling you, they buy local coffee because they understood. This is the same thing CATHEY is trying to do. What Marcus Rene is trying to say is that we want to stay the same. But Marcus Rene, Sisi, you're old school. That has to change. We need people like Usman Toure. That's the next breed of Africans. The Africans that are going to say, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going to Europe. I'm not going to USA. I'm not going to anywhere. I'm not going to China, wherever. I'm staying in Africa. And I'm going to help develop my people. I'm going to give them the education they deserve. I'm going to give them the health care they deserve. I'm going to give them a religion where they are represented, not oppressed. I'm going to give them a culture that they belong to. That's all. And I know where CATHEY is starting, maybe it's like hot, but we need people like CATHEY. Black Acres of the Gambia, they do the same. They do it quietly, though. You know, the fact that they put this thing on show, they're sending the same message, only quietly. You know, and for people like Marcus Rene, you should be ringing up your people and telling them to tell other people to say, guys, we need to get better. Because look at what's happening. The people at the Black Acres of the Gambia, they are paying their workers 3 times the local wage. You know, people like Marcus Rene, no, they'll come back, they'll go back. I bet you when she was even building those 2 houses, she said she was paying her workers the same amount, the crap money, peanuts. Because that's the mentality. We are in Europe now, you guys are in Africa, we the big fish. Listen to me, you know, I'm going to employ you. That's the wrong mentality. That sister has to change. We need people that can tell us as it is. I was there. And I'm the same as CATHEY, but people listen. People are willing to listen and change. Because all this way of living and doing things, we never used to be like that. You go to, I was at a market back home, and I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, I'm like, you know, everything looked so fresh, so organic. But the environment was filthy. There was like some water, stagnant water there. It looks like it's been there for 200 years, and it stank. But in the next to that, there was a woman selling fresh veggies, you know. And I say to her, why can't we just clean that up? So that, you know, once that disappears, and then she said the council, the government, that I said, no. It's not about the government. The government is not the ones who are coming here to buy stuff. If anything, the government is out there going to these international groceries where they're buying their fruits and veggies. But for me, I want to come here and buy from you. You know, why don't you guys, as the marketeers here, clean up this place? Because this you sell from here. Yourselves, we used to be like this back in the day. Communism, communistic culture, that's where we work together. You didn't have to buy individual lands. Everywhere had the same farm. We go and farm everyone and the food to cover everyone. That's where we work together. It's not about getting paid. And this is, I got a proof for you. You know, for understand, this is who we were. And if we were to go back to that, we can actually change the face and the way Africa looks, the way African cities look. You look at what has happened in Rwanda. You know, Kagame even says this. I didn't do anything special. All I just said was to remind people how we used to do it. It's called the Umuganda or something like that. At the end of every month, they have a day when they can go there and do community work. It's communism again. African invented. You know, where people go and work. We can go and build a school, you can go and help fix the road, fix the bridge, or just go in the field and grow something as a community, the same way you used to do it. Today, everyone is surprised, Rwanda is such a clean place. Nah, that's because they've just gone back to being African. That's what they've done. You know, during, after the genocide, they said they didn't go to The Hague. They set up local courts within Rwanda with $30 million, and they managed to fix, and they managed to go through all sorts of issues and send people to jail and all that within a short period of time. African justice system. You know, they didn't go to The Hague and spend billions of dollars so that, you know, pay all these fancy lawyers dressed up, you know, all that crap. They didn't do that. Africa just needs African. And this is what CATHEY says. She says the same thing about people that, you know, pray a certain way or live a certain way. She says the same thing. What she's emphasizing, and everyone needs to wake up, is that we've been brainwashed to think a certain way about ourselves. And we need to go back to being ourselves so that we can develop our continent. We need to go back to be at the forefront all the time to defend and protect, not just our children. You know, because I didn't see Renee Marcus trying to ask CATHEY about the man she saw with little Ghanaian girls. Renee doesn't care about that because that man was white. She lives in England. You know, so that's not a problem. You know, I would like Renee Marcus starting a petition because she's such a proud African to get the woman that killed 100 babies in Uganda to be sent back to Uganda and prosecuted there. You know, no, Renee Marcus is not interested in that because that woman is white and she lives among them. You know, she lives in the UK. She's living the fancy life. So the reality is we just need to change our mindset and put ourselves first, put our way of thinking first, put our way of doing things first. I'm going to encourage everyone to look at the books of Sheikh Anta Diop. And I'm going to finish by saying, Africa, we need to find out who our enemy is. Right now we are under attack, and we've been under attack for such a long time. I want you to ask a question. Why countries, the richest countries in Africa, are always a conflict? You know, Congo, Sierra Leone, all these countries always conflicting. And also the other thing is these same two countries that has Ebola. You know, they are not the poorest countries. You know, countries like Chad, you know, Mali and all these other countries that are not so rich in terms of resources. They don't have any of these diseases. It's just the Congo and Sierra Leone. They have Ebola and they also have, and they're always at war. You know, and also when it comes to Ebola, every person that was non-black that had Ebola got transported or shipped out to America or Europe or whatever, and they got cured. Where did the cure for Ebola come from? You know, when you create something, you create an antidote. I'm just telling you this. I want you to let that sink in. If you create a poison, you create an antidote for it. Just remember, no non-African person died from Ebola. And Ebola is only found in countries, or starts from countries that are destabilized. You know, and the only countries that are destabilized in Africa are the wealthy countries. This is what I'm saying. We need to find ourselves and be able to protect ourselves. You see, most of these presidents that kiss ass to some governments in Europe, this is what we should do. When they have that African Union Summit, let's go there. Let's get about 6 or 8 that are good presidents out of the meeting and gas the rest of them. Put them in body bags and ship them to Europe to their friends. See you later. So we focus on making Africa great. You know, and we need people like CATHEY, that people that speak the truth. Instead of people getting upset, we should start finding solutions. You know, just remember that instead of people getting upset, let's start finding solutions. Thank you. Goodbye.